Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome everyone to the Perintis Postgraduate Webinar Series. Let's begin our program this morning with Kitab Al-Fatihah. Alhamdulillah, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Siti Nur Asmah binti Surip from Faculty of Applied Sciences, UITM Shah Alam. And I will be a moderator for today's webinar. Before we continue with our program, please allow us to show a short video on Perintis. So today, we will have very interesting topic, which is tip for a flying colors Viva Voce. So Viva Voce, or verbal defense of thesis, is the last battle in our postgraduate journey, and it is very important. It can be a precious moment for us or nightmare for somebody. So inshallah, we hope after listen to this talk, you will be more prepared for your Viva and pass your Viva with flying colors. The talk will be given by Professor Dr. Norita Matnurwawi, a Dean at Center for Graduate Studies, University Science Islam Malaysia, USIM. Okay, since 2015, Prof. Norita has supervised about 25 postgraduates and currently supervising 9 students and postdoctoral. She also experienced as an examiner for local and international students. I believe from her vast experience, she will share many useful tips and guidelines for your future Viva Voce. If you have any question, please send the comment and I will read after the talk. Okay, without further ado, I welcome Professor Dr. Norita Matnarwali. Prof, the platform is yours.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى طاعتك. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all participants, audience who are here this morning. And thank you very much for the introduction, Associate Professor Dr. Siti Asma. Okay, now, so today is my turn actually as one of the EXCO of Perindis or Persatuan Saintis Muslim Malaysia. So I've joined Perindis since 2010, so almost 11 years. And we have a special session for postgraduates, yeah. So where we share tips, guidelines, and so on for the postgraduate students, yeah, for you to give benefit, yeah, from the members of Perindis. So today I choose the topic on Viva Voce. I won't say I have a vast experience, but through my little exposure, being an examiner with various universities, PhD and masters, and there are tips, yeah, that I think I should share and I can share with you that probably can help you in preparing, yeah, for your Viva Voce. So, so can I start the slide presentation? Okay. So so actually the initial title was tips and tricks for a Viva Voce. But I don't really favor the word tricks. So we are then we choose tips for a flying colors Viva Voce. Yeah. So all right. Now, before I begin, I would like to first express my gratitude to a number of professors who actually, through their wisdom and experience, they have shaped my journey as an academician. Yeah. First, my Prof. Purahana, who is my supervisor for my PhD in UUM. Okay, and then Prof. Safa Idris. He was, if I'm not mistaken, when I was a PhD student, they call him the father of AI. Okay, so my research area is in AI. And I think some of the tips that I will share today is some that I have gained from his wisdom. Yeah, how to write, sort of a roadmap on how to write a thesis and how to prepare for the Viva Voce. Okay, and then Prof. Abdul Razak Hamdan and Prof. Emeritus Datuk Tunku Muhammad Teguh Sembuk, they were in UKM, and I think those professors influenced me in terms of research in AI. So they managed to spark my interest. So Prof. Abdul Razak, Prof. Emeritus Abdul Razak he was the lecturer in AI, and then Prof. Emeritus Datuk Tunku was lecturer in natural language processing. Yeah. So through their lectures, through the discussions that actually shaped my interest in research in AI. And then Puan Marini Abu Bakar was my supervisor during my master's degree. And the three professors from UTM, Prof. Wan Muhammad Noor, Prof. Zaini Osman, and Prof. Associate Professor Dr. Wan Suhaimi, they actually influenced me in terms of looking at what is the purpose of education. Okay, so and this is something that I would like to also share. So it's, the PhD is not about the piece of paper. Okay? The PhD is about our journey of seeking knowledge. Okay? So so being a Muslim, and after we have been through PhD, we know it is a lonely journey. Okay, because only we know our own work. Okay, and you know, through discussion with friends and also students during our PhD, then we realized that we have nowhere else to depend on except to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. And this is something that Prof. Wan and Prof. Zaini and also Prof. Wan Suhaimi strengthen this um, view on looking at the purpose of education. Okay, and also Prof. Emeritus Jalani Sukami from USIM and Prof. Khalid Muhammad Noor. So he was a professor in University Malaya. I work as a research assistant, and I guess Prof. Dr. Khalid was the one who actually encouraged me to go to pursue for my postgraduate studies. So some of the tips comes from all these professors, and not to mention also my dear friend, Prof. Azurul Reza Abu Bakar in UKM. And then some of my lecturers, when I did my PhD in UUM, we have to take certain courses. So Almarhumah PM Dr. Hasna Ibrahim, who taught me epistemology, Prof. Dr. Ibrahim, Prof. Dr. Ahmad Mazan, and Prof. His wife, Prof. Dr. Dati Noran, who taught me on research methodology and also data analysis. And I should also express my gratitude to all the university who has appointed me as an examiner, and I seek permission. So some of the tips that I will be sharing is something that I have also gained through my experience as an examiner at their universities. And of course, last but not least, the Viva Voce candidates who I've learned so much from their research, from their findings, and so on. Okay, so I divide the topic of my discussion today. First is what is Viva Voce? Okay, it is a battle, but it's not a battle. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So let us see later. Yeah? And then what are the examiner's expectation? Okay, so from my own experience and from my fellow colleagues, fellow examiners, what we discuss, what we deliberate during the Viva Voce, I will share for the benefit of the students. The do's and don'ts. Okay, there are some sometimes it's a silent rules and regulations that we are not supposed to some conducts which are accepted and which are not accepted during a Viva Voce, and then probably some tips on before, during, and after Viva. Okay. If you have any questions, you can post. I think on YouTube, you can watch the YouTube channel. You can post the questions there, and we can, inshallah, we will address the questions later after I've shared these slides. Okay. So what is Viva Voce? Now, if you look at the definition, so Viva Voce is actually derived from a medieval Latin, which translate literally as with the living voice. Okay, so in English it occurs in contexts such as voting and so on. And the final line is a noun when it refers to an examination conducted orally. So it's an oral examination. Okay, and where you have about 20 minutes presentation, and you have a quick Q&A session. So the Q&A session, it is very much dependent on the examiners, the students, the question and answer series, the exchanges of question and answers. Okay, sometimes we call it thesis defense, but some students they misunderstood the word defense. Yeah, it's a thesis defense, but it is not about being defensive, right? So defense and defensive is two different words. Sometimes when the being to be in a Viva session, for example, and for example, observing my students presenting her thesis and so on. So after the Viva, I say, why did you say that? Because supervisors are not supposed to say anything during the Viva Voce. They just observe, right? And the students would, the answer is, Prof, is a defense. So I have to defend my thesis, So which I think she misunderstood. Thesis defense does not mean defensive. I mean, whatever it takes, I will say my point, I will stick to my point. So that is a wrong or a misleading understanding of a thesis defense. Yeah. So defense is to actually to present to your examiners, to explain, to clarify, to justify. That is what it means by thesis defense. Yeah. So some and most of the suggestions from the examiner, we have to respect their credibility, their experience. So do address the suggestions and comments rather than just being defensive and say no, my approach is the right one, and things like that, and that could influence your Viva result. Okay, so is this an oral exam? Except for one case, which is Australia, they don't have an oral exam. So my experience with the Australian university was, I just gave a report on that thesis. So and usually you have one internal examiner and one or two external examiner. So this depends on universities. So some universities, they have one internal, one external examiner, and one international examiner, which I think is a good practice, which will add quality because we have the local exposure and also the international exposure to the students. Okay. Okay, so this is one of my session. This is an online Viva session. So this is common now in the pandemic, right? So what is the purpose of Viva Voce? It is, as I mentioned, it is a battle, but it's not a battle. Okay, so we are not going to a war with the examiners. So your examiners are not your enemies. Okay, so I mean the way we perceive the Viva Voce is very important. Okay, so examiners usually when they come into the hall or they come into the Viva session, they already decide to pass the students unless a few things. So it's very rare that a student fail a Viva session. Even in my experience, I think only one student failed, but not because he failed the Viva, but he did not submit the correction that we suggested. So usually the examiners they have in mind is to pass the student. They are not going. They come to the Viva session. This student is going to get it from me. I will kill him, or her. So that is not the idea of Viva Voce. Okay. So the purpose of Viva Voce is actually to clarify. So because thesis is in writing, so some statements could be very confusing. Some paragraph could be contradictory to certain chapters and so on. So usually we will jot down in our reports, and we will ask the students to clarify on certain points, mainly on the thesis. Okay, and so the Viva Voce, the examination is also to gauge the candidate understanding of his or her work. Okay, and this is a very important point, because you must know your work. You have been doing, conducting your research probably 3 years or 4 years, and then you've been writing about your research. By right, you should understand your work by heart. So the examiners would like to see how much the student understand his or her work, and actually to help improve the thesis. So not to uh, um, uh, you know bang your work, or downgrade your work, but actually to upgrade the thesis so that it will increase to the next level. Yeah, so to improve the quality of your writing, the quality of your arguments, the quality of your justification, analysis, and so on. So that is the purpose, right? So and sometimes, and this is understandable, even when during my viva session, so the comment from the examiners was, when I've listened to your presentation, now I can understand what actually your research is all about. So we are looking for the what is it, yeah? So what is the hidden gems of your research, of your work? So the questions is not to kill you, okay? The question is not to to get you on something, but the question is to actually to dig, you know, from the researcher, from the students, what exactly or what is the interesting part of your research. Okay, so respond accordingly, and not to defense, not to be defensive, and then we might fail to see the hidden gems. Okay, and that will affect, of course, the result at the end. Right, so cooperate in explaining your work, the interesting sides of your work, what is novel, what is original, from your research. Okay, and sometimes also the examiners could correct a misleading perspective or understanding. So probably you choose a methodology or an analysis technique, and probably there are certain things that we need to fine tune, so that your result is reliable and valid. Okay. Um, so this is the same to give a facelift to the thesis, because your thesis, once it's done, it is in the library, okay, and it will be and usually the libraries can be accessed from anywhere in the world. So that Viva session is actually to give a facelift to your thesis, so that when people refer to your work, then yeah, it is up to a certain quality standards. Okay, and of course, I think this is also the key thing about a PhD research, especially, is to confirm on the novelty or originality of the proposed work. Okay, so what is new in this approach? What is new in this methodology? And sometimes we use the question of so what. Okay, now you have your solution, so what, so and this is the things that you need to explain to the examiners. Okay, so it is an examination. Now some students also consider Viva Voce is like it's a 15 minutes to 20 minutes presentation, but it's not a conference presentation. It's not a presentation in a seminar or in a conference. So you have to show that this work is serious. Okay, you have done something serious and you have got something interesting to share with the examiners, right? So through my experience with my own students, sometimes when they begin to start preparing for the Viva Voce, they come up, they presented the slides, and the slide is too far, from the actual, because uh, so an examination and a conference is two different things, right? Conference, you present 15 minutes, probably one or two questions, and you are done. But examination is your PhD, it's your work, it's your master's research. So you have to really put a lot of effort and preparation in this Viva Voce. Okay, so what is the examiner's expectation when in a Viva session? Okay, so the examiners, the number one thing is they want to know what is your problem statement. What is it that you want to solve? So even in any innovation, or in any problem solving kind of projects. This is the key question that the examiners or the panel will ask. What is your problem statement? What is the problem? What is the issue? What is the, why does it matter? Okay, and this is something that you need to explain well, and by addressing the gap analysis from the literature review. Okay, so I will share some slides later, a little bit more detail on this. Okay, so now when if this is a PhD research, then your problem statement is not something like, "Oh, I think there's a problem." So then then people will say, "Who are you to say that?" So the problem statement must come from sources that is credible. So usually that's the purpose of the literature review. And when you do the critical analysis of those related work that is relevant to your research. Okay, and then in probably in some social science or qualitative work, they would like to see what is the theoretical framework, the conceptual framework, the taxonomy of knowledge. Now, the taxonomy of knowledge, I think this is quite common in IT kind of research, because usually IT is hybrid with another domain. Okay, so for example, now let's say it's a health informatics. So your taxonomy of knowledge will be some health science scope in the health science. So you're not doing everything on health science. So some scope now probably it could be some, let's say it's a cancer detection, right? And the other part is on you are doing something on image processing and how these two connected. Okay, so that is taxonomy of knowledge. So to see how those two domains are connected in your research. Okay, so some other elements, of course, they would like to listen to know what is your research question, explanation on your research question, hypothesis, objective, methodology, and what is interesting. So you cannot present everything. Yeah? You cannot present everything in that 20 minutes, but you can highlight the key findings, which later in the question and answer probably the examiners will ask further. And this is my favorite question actually. Are these key points well synchronized? Okay, because this is something that I've learned from my supervisor. Okay, so we have to make sure that your problem statement and your objective, your methodology, and later your findings, they are talking on the same intonation or same same page. So don't discuss problem statement on some other issues, and your research objective in some other things, and then your findings that you are talking about some other things. So so when you present, when you prepare your Viva Voce, your slides, make sure that all these are well synchronized. Show how it is connected. Show how your problem statement, your research questions are being answered through your findings. Okay, and so that your problem statement and your research objective is actually your roadmap in your research, and when you present your slides, your Viva Voce. Okay, and this is also another word or phrase that I keep in as my as a favorite phrase. This is also from my supervisor. Keep the storylines interesting. So meaning that don't put everything. For example, when you write your thesis, don't put everything in chapter 1. So don't tell everything at the first instant. So like a storyline. So at that time, I used to say as a cerita Hindustan, cerita Hindustan. So things will develop one and another. So you keep waiting. What's next? Until you reach at the end. So this is also a skill for you to when you present. So bit by bit, little by little, and it will develops into a storylines which your readers and your examiners would, keep waiting, for your next slide and next slide and next point and so on. Okay. Uh, okay, so this is just to share with you. So my experience as an examiner, mostly in PhD. Okay, so as mentioned by moderator just now, and then as a supervisor, who's already 19 graduated, and now I have about five PhD and then three masters, ongoing. Okay, the flow of the Viva Voce, usually, as I mentioned, the examiners would like to pass it. Okay, so usually that's the emotion, that's the attitude. Okay, so once they have welcomed the candidates, and you have to go into the holding room, and then there will be a deliberation by the examiners. So usually the deliberation, it could be a short one, if the examiners agree on, for example, all the examiners agree on minor correction or major correction, or revival in some cases. Okay, so if all the examiners agree on the same decision, then it will be a short one. But if there's a conflict, so maybe one examiner says minor, the other examiner says major, or one says it's a totally fail, and the other one says no, it's a major correction, then the deliberation could be longer. Okay, so that's when they have the same understanding, and so usually is the decision will be confirmed once they listen to the explanation of the students. Okay, then your next 20 minutes, so you have only 20 minutes, so you must practice and practice and practice, so that you will be able to present in 20 minutes your 3 years or 4 years of research. Okay, it is challenging. That's why don't put too much text. Don't make it a very wordy slide. Yeah, too much text. Use a lot of graphics or infographics to present your work. Okay, and then most probably you will be able to achieve this 20 minutes. Okay, now usually we don't talk much on the literature review, but except when you discuss on your problem statement. So you would be citing some work to highlight, the gap that you are addressing in your research. Okay, then, now the presentation, you have to remember this presentation is just to clarify. Yeah, the examination is actually on the thesis. It's not the presentation. So don't if possible, the slides don't be not too flowery and things like that. Your examiners will not be impressed with all these um, um, the graphics and things like that, because they want to know the content. Okay, so but make full use of the 20 minutes to give an overview of your work, so that whatever confusion or things that the examiners would like you to clarify probably has been you have presented it in that 20 minutes. Okay, and then it will be the question and answers, the candidate and the examiners, and you must have the mindset that these examiners are interested in your work, else they will not accept the appointment as the examiners. And they spend some universities they give 1 month, some universities they give 2 months. Okay, they spend reading your thesis. So give them the credits that they are interested with your work, and it doesn't mean that if there are so many questions means they disagree with you. That not necessarily mean that way. But if I ask a lot of questions, sometimes because I am interested with the work, and I would like to dig the hidden gems of your work, and so you have to have this mindset that the examiners is actually interested with your work. They would like to know more. Okay, so share with them what you have done, what was interesting about your work and so on. And usually the question and answers in two phases. So number one is we start with the general comments. Now this is what I would recommend to the students. Yeah, even though it is a warm-up session, it's a general comment, but it is very important actually, because in these general comments, when they ask a very general question, just to get the general overview of your understanding about your work. If, for example, if you fail to, or if you're not able to explain clearly what is your work, we cannot see the passion, yeah, of the researcher, of the student in their work, you know. Or if they do not portray that they understand, you know, so everything is at their fingertips, then the question would be, is this really his or her work? Did he or she really understand what she's doing, you know? And if the examiners are not satisfied at this level, at this first session, I would say, then they might say, I don't see any point if we go to chapter by chapter. Okay, so even though it is introduction, even though it's a warm-up question, you have to also present it well, so that and to show your examiners that you know your work. Yeah, so in business they call it you know you have the knowledge, the product knowledge. You understand your research, you understand what is your findings, you understand the methodology, you can justify, you know. So every question asked you will be able to answer, or if you are not able to answer, you are able to give credits, yeah, to the comments, rather than being defensive and things like that. Even though you have published in a Q1 journals and so on, you cannot make that as justification, yeah, because that is one paper, it's not the whole thesis. Okay, and so this session is very important for us to decide should we go to the next phase, which is the chapter by chapter. Okay, so if we are satisfied, or we think, okay, let's move to chapter by chapter, and this is where it's quite lengthy. Okay, and depends on the students, depend on the thesis, depends on the examiners. Okay, and if the sometimes if the examiners are very interested with your work, then they would really scrutinize your work. So it doesn't mean that they are definitely going to fail you, but they have interest in your research. Okay, so we will go chapter by chapter. Right, and please remember your supervisor is a silent silent observer. Yeah, they are not supposed to say anything during the Viva session. Okay, then after it's done, then it will be the deliberation on the result. What are the corrections that the students need to be done during the stipulated time, and probably they would decide who should examine, yeah, the edited thesis later. So some which is not much issues, probably just the internet examiner, but some, some examiners, external examiners, they said, oh, I would like to also read the thesis again. Yeah, so this depends. Yeah, so there's no you know clear tips there, but it very much depends on the topic, on the examiners, and so on. Okay, and then it will announce the results. Okay, and closing the Viva session. So probably at this number 6, then only your supervisor have a chance to say something. Usually, thank you the examiners, thank you to the exam committee, and so on. Yeah. So don't use disclosing Viva sessions. So I've seen in some Viva session students, they start bargaining. Probably they got major correction with 12 months, and they say, can you just give me 6 months, and things like that. So don't do that. It's very, it's not professional. So just accept the result, as a kind of to show your respect yeah, to the examiners, their credibility, their professionalism, and so on. So my experience being a supervisor and being an examiner, sometimes I receive letters which they disagree with the result, and they start saying, like, for example, oh, you are the supervisor, you influence the examiners to give this result, and so on. So this is, as if we are a Muslim, we have to accept that rizki is from Allah. We have tried our best, we have done our preparation, and if that is the result, then we accept it, and take it as there's a blessings, that there's a hikmah behind all this. Yeah, and usually when you do the corrections, then you will see how the things develop, and see the how the comments of your examiners really give a good flavor or a good input, yeah, to your PhD work. Okay, so the Viva Voce result, it could be no corrections, which is very rare, okay, but that it is possible, probably just one or two typing mistakes and so on, but mostly it's on the minor and major. Now, I will not say that major means they are not a good student compared to minor. So sometimes when your examiners have a very strong interest in your work, they would suggest a lot of things which might not be able to be done in 3 months. So you need more time, so don't take it major as, oh, I am almost a failure. No. Yeah, so major means the corrections is you have to take a longer time for the corrections. Okay, so minor usually 3 months, but during the pandemic they could it could be extended to 6 months. Okay, so due to the PKP and things like this. So during the pandemic, if you get a 6 month, don't feel bad, yeah, because we are giving the consideration with the PKPD. It's very difficult for you to send your hardbound and so on to the university, so we give more time, right? For major correction, 6 to 12 months, and during the pandemic, so you also have more time. Okay, so just look at what are the comments from the examiner, and inshallah, if you take it positive, your examiners are not your enemies, they are trying to help you to improve your thesis, then inshallah you'll get the benefit, yeah, from all their professional comments. It could be a revival, so it is a major, but there's a lot of things that the examiners would like to hear again in another oral exam, and this usually could take 1 year. Okay, and fail, in my experience, usually in that case, it's because the student did not submit the correction, not because they failed the viva, but he did not submit. Okay, some do's and don'ts, so please keep calm and relax. You are not it is a battle but not a battle. Okay, so again, your examiners are not your enemies, so dress nicely, so that also adds to your confidence. All right, and make it like something like a research discussion, between somebody who have the expertise, years of experience in that particular topic, and they are giving you their food of thoughts, yeah, to improve your work. We understand you are a PhD student, you are still new, so we are there to help the students, yeah, to probably improve the writings especially. Okay, do, and as I mentioned, it's not a war. You are not going to a war, so don't stress yourself. Don't put yourself in an anxiety mode and thinking that I'm going to a war. That's it. I'm finished. And your examiner is not trying to catch you. So push out all these unnecessary thoughts. Yeah? And again, if your examiners comment something, criticize on your work, don't become like this. Yeah? Don't get angry. Just cool down, okay, and just say thank you for your comments. I will discuss with my supervisor. Don't start arguing, because sometimes when we start arguing, sometimes we miss the important points that what the examiner is trying to tell you. Okay, so just so you be steady, be calm, and importantly, be professional. Take the comments as professional and professionally. Okay. Okay, some tips before, during, and after Viva. So when I give these tips to my students, some do follow, some do not. Okay, it depends. Depends on you. So before the Viva, after you have submit your soft copy, take a good break. Go swimming, go Langkawi, and so on. Of course, now you cannot do that. Then probably go and plant durian tree or rambutan tree, and things. And after so many years, so this is the tree that I plant when I submitted my thesis, for example. Okay, and then prepare your slide. The latest 2 weeks, 2 weeks ahead of your Viva. Don't push preparing the slides the night before or a few days before, because 2 weeks, so that you have time to discuss with your supervisor, okay, to present to your friends. Probably if your supervisor arrange a mock Viva, then you can also practice with some other fellow lecturers, and they might would like to spend 1 hour and 1.5 hours with you to help you with your Viva session. So you have to practice the 20 minutes, probably with your peers or your seniors who have passed the Viva, and to get their comments. Okay, so and then this is my own personal experience, because before the Viva, I will read my thesis again. So after I put it aside, probably 2-3 weeks, and then I will pick it up, and then I will start reading my thesis cover to cover. Okay, and this is what I do. I will summarize each paragraph into 1 to 2 statements. So because each paragraph must have 1 or 2 key points. Okay, so you summarize. So I will write in a separate Word document, Word file, a summarize of each paragraph. So this is a kind of to push you to do the revision, to read your thesis again before the Viva. Okay, so you read, you summarize. Okay, so that then after 1 month, detached from your work, then when you read again, then probably you will find a new insight. Okay, print all tables and print all figures. So put your tables and figures. So when you have your Viva session, arrange it in such a way. This is your piles of tables and then your figures. And when you present and when they ask question, you can just pick up the table rather than flipping your thesis. And when you are panic, you are nervous, sometimes you cannot even see on the table. Okay, so put it on your side so that it is easily accessible. So because your tables will be arranged according to chapters, and it is easy. So put a file of your tables, a file of figures, and then while waiting for the Viva Voce, read the summarized paragraph over and over again. Now, through my experience, when I did this, I find my own mistakes. So you have write your thesis, and then you detach yourself for also probably 2-3 weeks. Okay, and then you pick it up again, and when you start summarizing, you'll find your own mistakes. And so when your examiner found it out, you will be able to explain. Yeah, so this is my own experience. I left out something which is very important, but when when I did my read before when I read again my thesis, I found this out, and in Alhamdulillah, it helps, because you notice your own mistakes, and you will be able to also identify redundancies, duplications, and probably some inconsistencies before the Viva. Okay, so the idea of summarize each paragraph is just that you need the main ideas, and you would know that maybe some too much repetitions of statements or points, and you will be able to detect. Yeah, but please, sometimes I have found thesis, even students, they tend to copy a statement, one paragraph into another chapter. So please don't do this, because if your examiners found this, it will not give a good impression, yeah, to you. So please make sure don't copy across chapters the paragraph, even into your abstract. Okay, during. So as I mentioned earlier, remove silly thoughts that could influence your mood and confidence level. So don't look at them. They are tigers, they are lions, they are trying to get you and catch you, especially when you see the face of our examiner and you say, oh no, he's my examiner or she's my examiner. So just accept this is fate, and just pray that you will be able to go through with your Bible session. So avoid arguments. It's okay to clarify, it's okay to justify, it's okay to explain, but don't argue. Yeah, because they are. I mean, if you have to argue, make sure the arguments is a sound argument. You have your evidence to show. You have your facts to show. You know, don't just for the sake of arguing, and being defensive. Okay, my way is the only way. This is the best way. So this is also another. Don't use super plus. This is the best method. And things like this is called super plus. Be humble. Yeah. Don't brag your work. There's as though nobody can beat or nobody can come up with a better approach from yours. Okay. So listen to listen. So don't listen attentively to what the comments, the question. Okay, don't listen to reply. So sometimes we miss the points, and be polite and have courtesy that your examiners they have experience, they have their own expertise, and of course they take their time, yeah, to read your thesis. So be grateful, on that aspect. So again, be humble. Don't brag and don't boast. Don't my research, we have 3 Q1, so and things like that. So yes, Q1 no problem, but it depends on how you argue. Okay, and I think this is also important. Be truthful and be honest. So sometimes examiners would be able to see if this is not your actual work. But but we put it in such a okay, we don't talk about it, but so it's better to be truthful and be honest with them. Don't take some other people's effort and claim that this is your work. Okay, because we know usually we will be able to detect, especially when very fundamental questions could not be answered by the candidate. Okay, so make a short, simple, and nice slide. Don't put hundreds of slides. You have only 20 minutes. So use a lot of graphics to explain your words. A picture worth 1,000 words. So use a lot of graphics. And here, do not bargain, as I mentioned. If the examiners give you a major with 12 months, don't say, can you please just give me 3 months and minor. That is a really a no-no for Viva Voce. Okay, so after the Viva, take time off. Take time off. Even though it's probably maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, it depends. Yeah, I've been in a Viva for 5 hours, even. Yeah, so you need to take a break, and then after that, then start reading the comments. Try to make some sense on the comments from the examiner, and usually the reports, written by the chair of the Viva session. Okay, you must plan your works with because usually during the Viva session, some of the students, they have already gone back to work and so on. So you have to plan your work so that you will be able to complete your correction within the stipulated time. And this is something that I would. This depends on universities, but I would encourage students to give the detail of the correction made. So this is the comment of the examiner A, and this is how you the correction in which chapter, which paragraph, which page. So it will help the examiners, because sometimes, especially if there's a major correction 1 year, it's very difficult for us to remember. So if you give the list, then we will be okay. So this has been addressed and things like that. Yeah, so the list of correction will make it easy for the examiners to as a checklist to go through your corrections, and of course get the approval from your supervisor and examiner. Please don't do last minute submission to your supervisor. Give also credit to your supervisor. If you give a bad work, it usually people won't say he's a bad student, but they say you have a very bad supervisor. What is your supervisor doing? He didn't check your thesis, things like that. So please take care of the reputation of your supervisor also. So don't give last minute work, don't give things that could also give an impact to the reputation of your supervisor. Okay, so now how much time do I have? Okay, good. So I will complete this sharing with some tips on the 20 minutes presentation. Okay, so number one, usually, for example, when we get the thesis, when we get the thesis either through email or hard copy, this is what I do. For example, this one, I will try to identify the domain of this research, the objective, the method, and the significance of this study. Yeah? Now, this is one example. Information security risk assessment framework for data centers in the Malaysian public sector using survival analysis technique. Okay, now the domain is definitely information security. So this candidate is doing a research in the area of information security. Okay, the objective, so she will come up with a risk assessment framework, right? And then the methods, she will use survival analysis technique, right? And the significance. So here probably we could not see clearly the significance, but after reading the thesis, this is what one of the suggestions to the title. A proactive information security risk assessment framework for data centers in the Malaysian public sector using survival analysis technique. So the significance is this approach is a proactive approach towards information security. Okay, so when you look at your title, try to identify this from your title. So your title actually already gave some ideas, on the contribution of your work, and the method, and the so what question can sometimes you can see it from the title, or if you cannot see it, then the examiners probably would suggest a new title so that you will reflect this. Okay, so this is another example. Okay, selective thermal and visual image fusion for elimination invariant ear recognition. Okay, so the domain is definitely ear recognition. So ear recognition is under image processing. Okay, and the objective is illumination invariant for ear recognition. The method by using a selective thermal and visual image fusion. Okay, and of course here we could not see clearly the significance, but if we read through the thesis, most probably is to improve, to improve this ear recognition process. So his work increase the accuracy of the ear recognition. Okay, another example, multilingual sentiment analysis from students' feedback in social media. So that's apa ni? Let me show. Okay, so the domain is sentiment analysis. So sentiment analysis is a text analysis. Okay, and usually it is from the social media. Okay, and the objective is to conduct a to propose a multilingual sentiment analysis from students' feedback, on the social match. And so the methods he focuses on the multilingual. So there's a translation, ontology, synonym, and so on. So which relates to this multilingual aspect. And of course, the significance is an optimal techniques, and resources for Bengali lingual data. So this is the corrected title later when the student submits, the correction. Okay, so for the title, try to highlight these four aspects, so that we would be able to identify even from your title in the beginning. Okay, and then on the background. Now, straight to the point. Don't especially in slides. It's not your thesis. Don't present your chapter 1 in one slide. Okay, definitely. So that's why it's important for you to summarize the paragraph, and you will be able to detect what are the key points that you need to highlight as the background, and it will emphasize the importance of your study. Why we need this study? Why you need to conduct the research? Is from the background. So where is the contribution of this work? So will be highlighted. So, and it is also good if you can highlight the current policy. For example, we have the national policy on industrial 4.0, if this is relevant, or you can give statistics. For example, here, the malware infections in Bangladesh, in Algeria, Uzbek, Germany, to show the intensity of the problems and so on. You can give trends, issues and challenges. Okay, so to set the stage, for your writing. Okay, then and this is the most important part, because usually when the examiners could not see what is the problem, what are you trying to solve, and then it will be quite difficult. So please focus on your on your preparation on the problem statement. Okay, because this is very important for them to see the why you are doing your work. Okay, and so now when you define your problem, sometimes we forgot the theoretical parts. So you talk about the problems in the industry, in the practical sense, but what do the literature review talks about this? What has been addressed in the literature review regarding this problem? So this is the theoretical aspect. So usually we would like to we know we have problem in the practical aspect, in the reality, but in theory, what has been discussed. Okay, because especially when you are doing your PhD, because your PhD is not on the practical, but it's more on the theoretical. That's why it's called Doctor of Philosophy. Yeah? And then the gap analysis. Okay, so and this is also important. Of course, this relates to the theoretical problem definition, critical analysis on previous related work. So don't say that I couldn't find the information. I've tried my best, but I couldn't find. Because usually it indicates you didn't read enough. Yeah, you didn't read enough, especially in this era of internet technology. That answers is not really acceptable. Yeah? So you have to try to find, and we have services for interlibrary loan and so on. So find similar work, and if you are doing, if your research is on technology, if possible, don't go beyond 5 years. So for example, now we are in 2021, then you look until 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20. Because before that, it could be that trend, that technology could be obsolete. Okay, so what has been solved, how do they solve it, and why, why is your interest here, in this problem statement. And so it has, if I'm sure that there's other researchers has solved this problem, but what is the problem with that approaches, what or the techniques or the method proposed. Okay, so and that's where you start your you define the gaps, the things, or the contribution, that will highlight that will highlight the contribution of your work. Okay, and if you come up with a solution, then definitely they will ask, why do you propose, why this technique, why not the other technique, and so you have to give justification of your technique. If you are using a quantitative approach, you are doing a survey, and then you come up with, let's say, 15 variables, then they will ask, why 15 variables, where did you get the 15 variables? And then if you decide to just out of the 15 I just choose 7, then again they will ask, why 7, what is the justification, and so on. So every decisions that you do, that you take in your research work, must be justified. Okay, must be justified academically. Yeah? Don't tell, because I like to try, or I want to explore. No, don't give that kind of justification. Okay, so this is an example of gap analysis template. This sometimes we identify the criteria, maybe features, and you will do the tick, 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 and you see, okay, now we can see that this approach did not address this part, this second approach did not address this part, okay, and so on. And so that's why now I will come up with a new technique that will be inclusive of all these criteria. Okay, so one example. So this could be one approach to highlight the gap and which part are you addressing. Okay. This is also another approach. We call it literature review matrix. Okay, where you present all related work, or only all the related work, and you highlight the key features. Okay, for example, this is another example. What are the key findings? What are the recommendations from that study? And then you conclude. Right? You give some conclusion. Don't just present what Bahrami is doing, what Blank is doing, what Tuki is doing, and then finish. But tell what they are doing, and try and do some analysis, critical analysis. Is it good? If it's good, if it's not good, then why, and how do you plan to improve, and so on. Okay, and so this is something that I've got from my supervisor. You must make sure that everything is well synchronized from your problem statement, your gap analysis, your proposed solution. Make sure it is been addressed in your objective. Okay, so don't discuss problems, but in your objective you didn't, it is not related. Okay, and your objective is as actions that actually describe the actions with specific purpose to solve the problem. Okay, so usually the objective show the things that you need to solve, and then the next one will be how you evaluate that your solution is good. Okay, so one is the solution, the proposed solution, and then next is the evaluation of your solution. Okay, so it depends on your research, which definitely you can discuss with your supervisor. And then methodology, again, you have to synchronize your methodology with your objective. So for example, make sure your objective have the steps. So the steps taken addressing each objective. So objective number 1, these are the steps. Step number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Okay, objective number 2, these are the steps, and the combination of all the steps will become your methodology. Okay, so methodology is, is something like, when you get a recipe, a recipe for some dishes, for example. So the methodology is put 1 teaspoon of sugar, and honey and things like that. So the steps that you have to carry in order to get that cake or that dish, and so on. Yeah? So at the end of that recipe is something that we can see, yeah? Which is very much related to your objective. Okay, so and then your discussion also, this is not the way, this is not the only way, but I find it very convenient, because it is easy for you to go from one chapter to another chapter. Okay, so the discussions again cross-check with each objective. So this is my problem statement. So this problem is addressed by this objective. So this objective, these are the steps that I need to carry in order to solve or to achieve this objective. and the discussion, the findings. This is the findings for objective number 1. Okay, and then objective number 2. These are the steps, and these are the findings for objective number 2. I find it very convenient. It is a clear roadmap when I need to write or when I need to present, because I just make sure that it is a trail of discussion between from problem statement to objective to methodology to discussion. And in fact, I find and this is what I always try to advise my students. If possible, one objective, one chapter. So when you write, let's say chapter 3 is your methodology, chapter 4 is your objective number 1. Then when you write chapter 4, you are very focused on objective number 1. So the steps, what are the findings, and all related to objective 1. Okay, then you go to the next chapter 5, objective number 2, and again. So it will be very much focused. Okay, and the third one, and then and probably the third objective will be the one that will be the glue between objective 1 and 2 and the third one. Okay, and then you do your conclusion. Okay, so I mean I find this when discussing with my students, or even when giving my recommendation or suggestions to the candidate, it is convenient, and because you are thinking in stages, okay, and in a very systematic way. Okay, so always refer to your objective, and your objective is your roadmap in writing, in also in presenting, and in discussing your findings and discussion, results and discussion. Okay, so sometimes it's good if you can have this kind of mapping, so that you will be able to see, okay, did I address everything? So this is problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. Okay, so probably problem 1 is addressed by objective 1, problem 2 and 3 is addressed by objective 2, and 3 is the evaluation of 1 and 2, for example. Okay, so objective 1, these are the steps that I need to take. So objective 1, for example, I have to do an interview, I need to talk to the experts, I need to go to the literature review to find models and so on. Okay, objective 2, I start to propose a model, do the design, do the implementation and testing, and then number 4, and then probably step 6 and 7 is the evaluation of whatever solutions that you propose. So when you have this mapping, then you can see how everything is interconnected and related. Okay, so objective 1, you must have deliverable 1. Okay, and then it will, so when you discuss about future works, you can also refer to all these objectives. What has not been done in objective 1 that can be improved in future works. Okay, and so on. Okay, I think that's about all that I can share with you today. Now, I would also like to promote, we have in the Facebook a professional help desk, a guide for PhD and research student. Find this group and please join, because there's a lot of discussion here. And we have professors also in those groups, which can also give you some guidance, some tips in relation to your research. Okay, Dr. Osman, I think that's all that I can share this morning, and I welcome any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Norita, for an enlightening talk. There are lots of useful tips given by Prof. And Prof has emphasized that Viva is not a war, right? It's not a war. It's a time to defend your thesis, but don't be too defensive. You have to prepare, I think, your slides earlier and do practice with the time given. You have to read your thesis cover to cover. Because if you understand what you have written in your thesis, there will be no problem during your Viva Voce. And also, the presentation flows and information given must be well synchronized. This is what has been highlighted by Prof. Narita just now. And the most important thing is the student must be ready. You have to be very ready with your presentation during your Viva Voce. Okay, Prof. We have four questions from the participants. So
Yeah.
I will read one by one. The first question is from Nick Nazlan. Prof, what are the roles of the chairman and the supervisor in Viva Voce?
Okay. So the chairman is usually to make to calm things down, you know, because things are everybody probably in anxiety and things like that. So the purpose of the chair is actually to moderate the session. Okay, so especially when there are things that he need to control the situation. Okay, and basically he also take notes, yeah, on the comments and things like that. So, and usually in situations where the decision is difficult, so that's where the chairman will come in, and then the decision will finally will be on his responsibility. Okay, and the supervisor is more on the as an observer. So what I did usually is I jot down the comments from the examiners. Okay, and you are also learning from your fellow colleagues, based on their comments. Of course, being human, there's a lot of things sometimes we overlook. Spending 3 years, 4 years with your students, sometimes we miss a very important point sometimes. So it's good for us to jot down. But some universities, uh, before they begin the Viva session, they sometimes they give they will invite the supervisor if they have anything to share, with the examiners. And this is very important for you to have a good rapport with your supervisor. So if your supervisor say he is hardworking, except that he have problem with English or something like that, then you are quite safe. But if the supervisor say, tak tahulah, so berserah sajalah, then that would be a problem. So make sure you have a good rapport with your supervisor. So they could also influence. I mean, not directly, but that's why be a good student. Be a good student and be a good partner with your, because a PhD student and the supervisor is a team. It's a research team. You know, sometimes I listen to comments like, supervisor to ambil kesempatan dengan pelajar lah and things like that. Your supervisor are giving you advice free, while you are doing as a student. So give some credit. Don't orang kata, in Islam, we have teachers, they have a special place. So don't start saying, alah, supervisor ni suka ambil kesempatan and so on. So some of your work has been through from their ideas also. Okay. So, but during the Viva session, the supervisor is actually to observe the Viva session, unless when the situation calls that the supervisor need to voice out, then they can. But usually we advise not to say because that will also influence when the supervisor say something, then they it would say that they might give comments like the supervisors, even the supervisors are not professional. Things like that. So
Yes,
they
Prof, I agree with you. The good reputation with the supervisor is very, very important
yeah,
actually. And the appearance of supervisor during Viva can give us moral support, yeah,
yeah,
to answer all the questions in the war room.
yeah.
Okay, Prof, let's move to the next questions. From Putri Dini Iliana. She asked, sometimes we can be quite unclear about the comments or corrections mentioned by fellow examiners. Can we ask them question to clarify their comments or thoughts during the Q&A session?
Yes, definitely you can ask. Definitely you can ask them to clarify. But as I mentioned, in a polite and courteous with courtesy. So I think we Malaysians, we are being taught to be menghormati guru. So don't clarify as though you are challenging them, but uh, clarify to further explain what do they mean. Of course, definitely you can, but say it nicely.
Okay. Prof, on the next questions, you have mentioned this question is from Ahda Ahmad Syukur. Okay, Prof, you have mentioned
Mhm.
that during the Q&A in the Viva or Voce flow, why candidates cannot justify the answer with Q1 papers that the candidates had published during her studies?
Okay, I didn't mean cannot. What I mean is that you used your Q1 as your a defense mechanism, because sometimes in cases when students says when we give comments, we criticize on the work, and they say, this has been published by Q1. Yes, definitely it has been published in Q1. It's good, yeah, but that Q1 is on that particular paper. We are talking about your thesis, the whole thesis. So don't how to say it, don't make it as a macam mana kan? Don't make it as something that uh, manipulating the Q1 to be as your justification, you know talk about the content of the Q1, not that this paper is Q1. The content of Q1 is because we want to hear the content, not whether this published where and so on.
Yes, because in Q1 paper just publish maybe part of the project, yeah, not
Mm,
the whole thesis. Because in
mm,
Viva Voce, we need to defend all the findings that we have. Okay, Prof, here we have another question from Mr. Lim YY. He
mhm.
asked, Salam Prof, just want to ask Prof that proofreading should be done before the Viva or after?
Okay, thank you, Lim. I would recommend both. Because if you don't proofread before the Viva, then it will not give a good impression to your examiners also, right? Because that shows the meticulousness of your work. And proofreading after the Viva, you're hardbound because it will be the reference to so many. So you want to make sure that when somebody said, "Oh, I prefer to your thesis," you feel proud of your work rather than, "Oh, there's a lot of English problem in that thesis," things like that. So the proofread, the first one is for the Viva session, and the second one because it will be referred by many from the libraries.
Okay, Prof. So I think this is our last question from Ili Hamid. Assalamualaikum, Prof. From your experience, how many slides for 20 minutes presentation? Should all the results must be presented in all slides of Viva Voce? Thanks, Prof. Thank you in advance, Prof. The
Uh,
sharing today is full of informative tips.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for the comments. Okay, you have to speak. Yeah, you have to discuss with your supervisor and pick which result that you would like to highlight in the slides. Especially the key one. Because you sometimes you don't have enough time to show everything. So pick the one that will give, that will strengthen, the justification, or your contribution to your work, and but not everything. In terms of number of slides, I'm not really sure because if you sometimes if you use graphics, then you can condense the slides because everything is one you can explain in one slide. But I think if you go to hundreds, I don't think that is possible. You can present 100, but it will be like a speed train. You blah, 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 and your examiners could lose interest in your work, and they pretend to listen, but they are not listening. So then you miss the point. Right.
Okay, yeah, we just highlight our significant findings, yeah,
Yeah.
during the presentation. Okay, I think that's all for the questions. And thank you once again, Prof, for your time
Okay.
and knowledge. And thank you to the audience for joining the session today. And please use the knowledge and tips that's given by Prof. And also don't forget to share with other friends because knowledge has no value unless you use or share it. Okay. We are at the end of session, so see you again in next our webinar series in next month with other interesting topic. Do check on our Facebook and website for more details. So we end our session with Tasbih Kefarah and Surah Wal As.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. All the best with your research, with your studies. Okay, Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Dr.
Uh,
Masmi.
thank you, everyone.